We are back for the fourth time on the Cowboys Report. We've gone through roster cuts, the trades, the moves that have happened today. We will now wait and see if the Cowboys are going to be active on the waiver wire. There's been some buzz that maybe they actually will be, even though historically they're fairly quiet on that front. We'll know a little after noon Eastern time tomorrow. Before we dive into some waiver wire targets and the details and the buzz around it, help us out by sharing today's video. Because this is the fourth video of the day, there will not be a YouTube push notification. So help us out. Help us out. That's how I want to say it. Share today's show on social media, Twitter, Facebook, text it to a friend. Get the word out there. There's another Cowboys Report video up today. So the NFL waiver wire will be run at noon on Wednesday. Now, it's not going to have all the information out immediately by then, because the Titans get first claim, then it goes to everybody else. So Tennessee can announce who they're going to claim. Everyone else has to wait and see. So it does take 15, 20, sometimes a half hour to figure out what the waiver wire results actually are there. Historically, the Cowboys haven't been the most active. They make a claim every now and then, but they always like their guys, right? They do have needs on this roster. And I look at this team and go, okay, cool. For the most part, I think you made the right cuts, some quibbles here and there, but I think you need some help. So we'll get to Todd Archer's tweet later on, some other hints from insiders. The waiver wire order is the exact same as the NFL draft order. The Cowboys are 12, so they get a decent chance of getting some guys. There are unlimited claims. The order does not change after. It's not like your fantasy order where you burn that first pick and you go back to the line. Tennessee is first for every single player if they want to claim because parity. The claiming team will assume the contract of the player who had been waived, and you also have to create a roster spot. Not at the exact same time, but that's due typically by 4 p.m. Eastern. There was this note that came out from Todd Archer earlier this afternoon that says if Trayvon Diggs doesn't suit up week 1, undrafted rookie corner Zion Childress would handle the slot. With the Cowboys to continue to look for cornerback help, though, through waiver wire and free agents. I think corner is one area you should look. There are some names I'm interested in. Defensive tackle. I don't care who you cut to get somebody better. I honestly don't. Winfrey, Toya, I don't care. Pick somebody. I don't think this defensive tackle room is serious. It just kind of feels like we were all melted down over Perrion Winfrey, who was in the UFL this spring. Tells you how bad this defensive tackle room is. Running back, can you cut Miles Sanders and go get somebody better? I would have interest in that. Or even just move him to IR and then bring him back later. That's actually, I think, a really good idea for the Cowboys since he's got an injury as it is right now. Corner's an obvious area of concern. We mentioned that with Todd Archer's tweet. I would go get help. That's what I would do. Will they, though? You know how much the Cowboys like their guys. Will the Cowboys make a waiver wire claim? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comments section of today's show as we break down some of the top targets. I want to mention some defensive tackles. I think there's a little bit more notable options out here as we sit right now. First up is Zaach Pickens, the Bears defensive tackle, who we'll get his stats up on screen here in a second. I think Pickens overall has the obvious ties to Matt Eberflus. He is not the biggest option in general. He's not huge, but he does, I think, fit what Matt Eberflus likes. He was a third-round pick, listed at 6'4", 300 pounds. There's the obvious connection there with the coaching staff. He never quite had a breakout season in Chicago. I thought it was a little bit early to take him there, but I do think that's the obvious connection. Makes it worthwhile. You want a bigger body? Brodric Martin of the Lions. If you can go back and wind back the clock. We've mentioned both these guys as trade targets. Well, they get cut in the end. Huge frame, 6'5", 330, the listed size. Only had one tackle, former third-round pick. Never lived up to expectations. But again, you're on the waiver wire. You're kind of trying to take one team's trash into another team's treasure. Let's go to the Ravens defensive tackle, CJ Okoye, CJ Okoye, also goes by Basil, I think is his actual first name. I think I'm pronouncing that right. If not, I'm sorry. From Nigeria, former NFL player pathway program. I know some sites list him at 370. He's not 370. You can go watch him from when he played the Cowboys. He's not 370. Maybe even 330 is more doable there. Big body. I know my guy Skywalker Steele has mentioned him. I think he is the creator of the interest there, in a good way, by the way, because he's got a very good football eye there. I would have interest in Okoye as well. I want more defensive tackle help, but I think he's one of your better nose guard type bodies available. Elijah Chatman of the Giants made the roster last year after coming from SMU. He's small, though. He's kind of got that almost Puna Ford frame. I think he is actually a bit heavier than 278, but he was impressive in the preseason last year. Giants had a bunch of depth on the defensive line. I think he's actually like 5'11 and 5'8. Like I think he's actually sub 6 foot. Very unique frame, but Dallas area guy. Cowboys probably have some familiarity. Taki Taimani, I think I got that right. Taki Taimani, I think that's how it's pronounced. Some tough names tripped me up today, I'm sorry. The Vikings defensive tackle, they had a bunch of depth that they kind of just had too many pieces to get to. They're the Oregon product. He made the roster last year, but they made all these moves, and even after trading away Harrison Phillips, they just didn't have the roster space. So I was trying to target like players who are bid on a roster, have depth, and aren't 265 pounds. DeMarvin Leal is another notable name, former third-round pick, Pittsburgh Steelers. Has kind of been on the bubble for, I feel like, a couple years now. Texas A&M product. I don't know if he's actually 290 these days. It's fine. Even has like some weird tweener, defensive end, defensive tackle hybrid stuff. But I do think that is a spot that maybe we could keep an eye on and have some options. I think there are some good DTs that are certainly out there right now for the Cowboys. We'll get to running backs and corners here in a little bit, but name a player who you want to claim off of waivers. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. What player do you want the Cowboys to go get? We mentioned Audric Estime. Was that yesterday? This morning? I don't know. Time runs together on these types of days. The Broncos running back who did spend time in the actual roster, on the 53-man roster. He's got some ability. He's got good size. He, in theory, should be a pretty good power runner, but he doesn't offer much in the passing game. It is, in general, not a very good free agency waiver wire crop of backs. Like, I actually don't know how many options there are that are better than Miles Sanders, which I think is something that needs to be considered as we sit here looking at these players. But Estime's got some power run to his game, worth mentioning. Damian Martinez, who I know many of you have interest in, and I had interest in during the draft process. I was higher on him than where he went. Sounds like it was pretty inconsistent in training camp at best. Cowboys brought him in for a Dallas Day visit, and they passed on him several times, and I wonder if that means that they didn't love that process. I think that's worth mentioning. Israel Abanikanda, it's probably time to give up my dream there. Explosive player, but he hasn't gotten much of a chance, and he's kind of bounced around a few times with the Jets, with the Packers most recently. Higher draft pick investment than Martinez there. I love the height, weight, speed combination for Abanikanda, but probably getting close to the point of like time to move on and go in a different direction there. So the running back room we'll see, but I don't love the waiver wire options there unless somebody else ends up getting cut. Maybe a factor in why they chose to IR stash Phil Moffitt to start. All right, today's show is made possible by PrizePicks. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Football is underway. College football week 1 is just around the corner, so don't miss any of the action this season on PrizePicks. It's simple to play. You pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in with 2,000 times your money. Keep an eye out for the max discounts. For example, Dak Prescott passing yards more than a half. I mean, it's a no-brainer to put into your lineup there. Here's my power play lineup for week 1. Dak Prescott, more than a half passing yard, obviously. I love the Xavier Worthy, more than 3.5 yards on the ground. Give me that one reverse, that one jet handoff type of deal. Ashton Genty, a touchdown as well, since he's going to get force-fed in Vegas against a Patriots defense still kind of retooling. Go download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Let's go to some corners, and there's 3 guys that stand out to me of players who were cut. Beanie Bishop is first up here. That is the West Virginia product who, he's a nickel. He's not very big, but he was actually kind of productive this past year for the Pittsburgh Steelers out of West Virginia. A couple interceptions, several pass breakups. The big thing that might hold back Bishop and the Cowboys' interest there is sub 31-inch arms, which relative to his height is actually pretty good, And he's got great speed. He's a 4.39 guy, but the Cowboys love that height. But if they want another nickel option, it's better than Keemon Hall. I think Bishop is a great fit. Damari Mathis, the former draft pick out of Pittsburgh, the Denver Broncos corner who had been linked to some trade rumors there. Look, 3 tackles, 1 pass breakup, didn't play a ton last year. The arm length is okay, 66th percentile on that, 79th in the wingspan. I think there is like some upside to be like an inside-outside piece. I like Damari Mathis. He's my number 2 corner. My number 1 fit, though, is JuJu Brents. It's a guy we talked about in the pre-draft process. This is Will McClay's archetype to a T. This is a long, lanky corner who was a high draft pick. This is JuJu/Julius Brents. He's almost 6'3", 198, 4.5, 340-yard dash is actually pretty good at his size. His arm length is the 98th percentile. The wingspan is the 99th. The 3-cone was the 93rd percentile. The broad was 99. Now, he was more of a tester than a player, but everything about JuJu Brents is the type of guy the Cowboys would have interest in. So I have my eye closely put on him. He's banged up a lot in Indianapolis. That was an issue. Not a great scheme fit. Didn't have a good preseason. Not surprised he's cut. He's worthy of a second chance somewhere else. This one fits the Cowboys archetype. Some other notable cuts. I just want to go rapid fire of I don't think these guys make a lot of sense for the Cowboys' needs, but they're notable. So I want to mention them. Practice squad if they don't get claimed. Hendon Hooker and Jake Haener both released. I don't know if you want to just reunite the Tennessee Volunteers quarterback room with Hooker and Joe Milton, but they liked Haener a little bit coming out. Isaiah Foskey was a high draft pick, second-round pick out of Notre Dame by the Saints. They've had some misses in recent years in the draft there, Aiden. Malachi Corley, hear me out, running back. I don't think he's a receiver, actually. I would have interest in claiming him, signing him, whatever, and making him be a running back. I think he's got after-catch ability, which is, after-carry ability. I don't think he's a receiver, though. You can go back and look at my draft notes and my thoughts on that. I thought he was a running back. Tyler Scott, hand up. That's going to be a miss for me. He's caught in a numbers game in Chicago, but he's not that great. Cole Strange, former first-round pick on the offensive line. Talk about a huge whiff by Bill Belichick to kind of help end his tenure in New England. He might get claimed by the Bengals. Bengals need all kinds of offensive line help. Kenyon Green, who I thought for sure was going to be a Cowboy. Not for sure, but I thought he was a prime Cowboy candidate. Got taken earlier. If the Eagles can't fix you, you just might be done along the offensive line. Chad Mumo is a former third-round pick. I don't think he's actually that good, despite some fans out there. And then 2 old friends, Isaiah Land, the Colts defensive end, and Julius Wood, the Titans safety, both on waivers. We all melted down the fact that the Cowboys didn't keep them. Here they are, back on the waiver wire. That's why sometimes I am guilty of this too, to be clear. Sometimes we get too bent out of shape over who gets cut and who doesn't get cut. Those guys are normally kind of fighting for their football lives at that point. Of note, Julius Wood does have a 1-game suspension he has to still serve. Also, one more last name, by the way, touchdown Tommy Mellott, who I liked a lot on waivers from the Raiders. What is your confidence level overall in this Dallas Cowboys roster? Scale it for me from 1 to 10. 1 on the low end, 10 on the high end. Couple rapid-fire veterans to monitor. I had Shy Tuttle on here, but he's already going to agree to deal with the Tennessee Titans, so cross him off your list. Cam Akers is cut again. The Saints are, not good at running back, so I kind of don't think that's a very good option. Isaiah Simmons cut again, the linebacker from the Packers, so kind of feel like it's over for him, but hey, I wanted to make note of that. Mike Hilton is already going to go visit the Colts and old DC, Lou Anarumo, so might not be an option there. I thought he fits pretty well as a nickel. Dane Jackson is on the market. Again, sometimes these guys are just going to go back to the team with waiver cuts, but wanted to make note of it. Nick Needham is like a nickel, can do some safety stuff. Certainly an option as well, so we'll see what happens on that front. 2 names I want to mention here briefly that, they know are Shiloh Sanders and Desmond Watson. Shiloh is not an NFL 53-man roster player right now. Sorry. Des Watson needs to lose weight. There's a reason the Bucs, they could have just kept him on the reserve list and kept paying him, and they didn't. They just cut him. He needs to lose more weight. He hasn't done it yet. And until that happens, it's just not going to work in the NFL.